Hey everyone, this is Chris, and you're listening to One Cross Radio, and today we are rejoined by a very tired...
Mike, my name is Mike.
I wasn't forgetting your name, man.
Okay.
Could you imagine? I've known you since 6th grade. It's like, hey, what's this dude's name?
That's okay, Phil.
You monster! Unless it's Phil Tippett, who had one job.
A dinosaur supervisor. He had one job.
Dinosaur supervisor, he had one job, and he failed. People died, Phil. Well, we're already off to a good start.
Great start.
Fantastic start.
Someone one-up me.
So we are clearly rejoined by the always funny and awesome Mike Naulls. Mike, how you doing, man?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad.
What accent is that?
There's a really bad Irish accent. Not too bad. Tola.
It's like trying to watch Keanu Reeves and Bram
Stoker's
Dracula. Have you ever seen that?
No,
it's messed up.
Yeah.
I couldn't actually watch it. There was just too much where I'm like, I can't do this. I'm out. And then I'm hearing stuff. I'm like, what is this movie? Although, to give him full credit, any brief time I heard Gary Oldman and saw him, I was like, dude's awesome. So
yeah, he's pretty solid.
He's Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman.
Let's have these ones.
Yes. And today we are again sponsored, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, by Tetley's Orange Pico Tea and good old Bulk Barn. Although I'd love some of that Bark Barn money as well.
Yeah, that's dog food store. I
guess. The dog food Bulk Barn. Oh my gosh, we have $1 million idea.
Bulk Barn already has dog food.
Dang it!
But Bark Barn could have more.
It could be like
be dedicated to dog food.
It could be the sub store within a store. Remember good old Toys R Us, R.I.P.
You still got Toys R Us.
Is it still in Ontario?
Yeah, sure.
What?
Canadian ones didn't die. American ones did.
Oh, okay. And now I'm a lot happier. Awesome. Yeah, I saw everybody being upset about Toys R Us dying, and there's not any around here, so I was just like, no!
They're still around.
Nice.
Passed one on the way here.
Mike worked at a Toys R Us, actually.
I did. It was my dream.
And did you enjoy the job?
Yeah, the people were good.
And you got us some sweet Star Wars toys.
Oh yeah, I got boxes of Star Wars toys to go with the boxes I already had. I got so many Star Wars toys, I don't know what to do with them.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's fair. If you ever sell them, you could sell them. Well, there you go.
Very good.
Yep. Well, we're off to a great start.
This is going great. I'm enjoying my nut mixture. My Garden of Eden.
Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Found in Bulk Barn.
That's right.
All right, so let's try to get
locations to serve you better. I don't know how many locations I have, but it's got to be a lot. There's 2 within driving distance of my home.
There's a number.
I mean, within the same distance.
I just burned my finger.
Well.
So, listener, as I said, we are sponsored, in quotation marks, by Tetley's Orange Pico Tea, which Mike and I are drinking because, one, tea is delicious.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's nutritious, but also we are both quite tired, and we need a wake-up jolt.
Yes.
And I accidentally just dipped my finger in my boiling hot tea. It hurts.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Mike, let's try to get to today's topic, which is...
Well, this is going so well.
I'm sorry. I've been given feedback recently where it's like, hey, when you have a topic, you should focus on it.
Why don't you shut up?
Which I've gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of people recently. And
saying, why don't you shut up? What do you think of my podcast? Why don't you shut up?
I can't say that's happened, but I will share a funny story about. So we've got our merch site on Redbubble where we do all our shirts, our phone cases, and all that. The other day at work, I was wearing my One Cross Radio sweater, and towards the end of the night, a couple of the youth and the volunteers, they actually noticed my sweater, and they're like, "Oh, One Cross Radios, what's that?" And I don't know about you guys, especially if you have your own projects. Mike, you might understand this, where it's difficult to kind of like plug yourself.
Yeah, I'm not into self promotion.
Yeah, where it's a necessary thing. Like I promote One Cross Radio on my Facebook, on its Facebook, on Instagram, on the website, and all that, and through the merchant stuff. And other people like Cardboard Koinonia have been wonderful in sharing it. Hector Mire's been awesome in sharing it, which has been great. But that's not like, hey, I'm wearing this thing that I do that I want you to check out. So it was kind of awkward for me. And they're like, oh, One Cross Radio, what's that? Is that a radio station? I was like, no. And they're like, oh, so what is it? I was like, it's a podcast. They're like, is it any good?
No, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
And I'm like, I'm trying not to be self-deprecating, but it's also odd for me to like promote myself and big myself up and be like, hey, I'm awesome and you should think I'm awesome and all that. Yeah. So I'm just like, well, I hope so. And then there's just kind of this awkward silence and they're like, is it something you're involved in? I'm like, yeah, it's my podcast. And I'm just like, it would just be so much easier if I could just be like, hey, this is my podcast. You should check it out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so back to the topic at hand. I did get feedback from people, so thank you so much for the feedback. It's great to get it. I love constructive criticism. None of it was, why don't you shut up? So, let's get to actually the topic at hand today. Today we are talking about a kind of varied topic, actually. We're looking at sequels, reboots, and I guess film franchises in general, because it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
There are things.
So, like, common criticism I see, especially as the superhero genre has taken off and gotten to be the mostly wonderful thing that it is now, that I'm hoping won't end anytime soon. A common criticism of movies throughout the years, they're all just reboots or sequels or part of a larger franchise. There's no standalone movies anymore.
This is true.
Yeah. And at times, which it can be the case for the tentpole pictures. It's not so much for like the end of the year Oscar bait season or the smaller movies or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Mike,
mm-hmm. How can I help you?
Yeah. What? I guess let's focus on sequels first.
Okay.
Sequels tend to get a bum rap. 9 times out of 10, they are like it's viewed as sequels are inherently inferior films than their originals.
Yes, they're much anticipated, but much maligned.
Do you think it's something that's just done as a cash grab, or is there a good way to do it? And are there some sequels that you find, while maybe not as good as the original, are underrated? And what are some sequels you'd point to that's better? That's
a loaded series of questions.
It is. Hopefully this...
Are they just a cash grab? Technically, yes. I think it's very rare that they're just making another one to continue a story rather than make money, because the first one was successful.
Unless it's something pre-planned like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, where...
Well, I wouldn't say Lord of the Rings were sequels. They were 3 installments.
Yeah, or what the original trilogy was as well.
Yeah.
But they knew it was going to keep going.
Sure.
Sorry.
What were your other questions? what are some good sequels?
Yeah, or what are some sequels that you'd point to that you would say are good sequels, even though they're not as good as the original? And then the second part is, what are some sequels that you would say are as good or even better than the original?
Well, ones that are good but not as good as the sequel.
The original.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Not as good as the original. Like certain comedy sequels, often comedy sequels are really bad, but there are some that are still good. Like, I don't want to say just teen comedies. That's not a very good example. But what?
No. I've got some in mind. Sorry. And when you said teen comedies, I'm like, those are rarely ever good to begin with. Like in a good category to begin with.
But I can't think of any that are. I mean, there are some that I could point to and say, "Oh yeah, that's a really good one." But okay, like going back to our previous podcast, X-Men Apocalypse is a sequel. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not very good either, and it's not good as Days of Future Past or First Class,
or X-Men 2,
or X-Men 2, or
X-Men 1.
Most X-Men movies.
Yeah.
But it's still watchable.
Yeah.
That was a bad example. What ones that are better than the originals? That there's the standard ones like Empire and Terminator 2 and Godfather 2 is often quoted as better than the first, but I disagree.
As long as you don't say Godfather 3 is the better one.
There's things in Godfather 3 that I enjoy, but not because they're good, but because I can like make jokes about them, like "Oh, Charles," that kind of thing. There are good elements of Godfather 3 though. What's another good sequel? I'm drawing blanks here. Help me out, man.
Yeah. So you mentioned Empire, which is... Empire's great, and that's the one, especially if you're doing a trilogy story, that's the one to model off of.
De facto.
If you're doing a non trilogy sequel, then you want to... It's a phrase. You want to go Wrath of Khan on it. I don't know if you've seen the original Star Trek movies. Sorry. Oh boy, the Trekkies are coming at me again, and I'm one of them.
You're now wearing a red shirt. I know the Trek.
You're not a fan of the Trek, are you?
Not really. I enjoyed the new movies, but
fair enough.
I wasn't like, oh yeah, live long and prosper. I love it.
Wrath of Khan is heads and tails and like CN Towers size is better than Trek the Motion Picture. Mm-hmm. It is everything that the first Trek movie should have been.
I see.
So especially if you've done a first movie that didn't exactly light the world on fire or anything, or satiate your fandom or anything like that, then that's the one to look at. It is definitely better, and it's in the top Trek movies. I put Rocky Balboa probably at the same level as Rocky 1, and it has more rewatchability for me than the first Rocky does.
Yeah, I can rewatch those movies.
Yeah.
I've rewatched Creed a lot lately.
Yeah. Creed is another one where after, like, the whole point of Rocky Balboa is Stallone being like, look, I'm really sorry for Rocky 5.
Yeah. Let me make it up to you.
Let me end this the right way. And then it was wonderful. So then when they announced Creed, it's like, don't do that. You ended it so well. Like, why risk that? Creed was wonderful. So now we're in a position where Creed 2 is coming out, I think, next month, or November, right? November, sorry, it's Thanksgiving in America that it's coming out, not Thanksgiving in Canada.
What do they have to be thankful for?
Oh my gosh.
No, that's on How I Met Your Mother when one of the characters, Barney, he was talking about Canada, and he always has this disdain for Canada, and he talks about Canadian Thanksgiving. He says, what do they even have to be thankful for in Canada? I turn that around, America. I've seen you on the news.
So now we're in that position with Creed 2 where I'm like, Creed was so good, and now we're bringing in Ivan Drago's kid, where it looks well made, but part of me is waiting for that shoe to drop, where it's just like, oh, is it going to be bad? Why risk it? As for sequels that were... Fast and the Furious only improved when they added The Rock in Fast 5. And then the last ones of just... The last 5 through 8 are a lot of fun movies for me.
Yeah.
As for sequels that aren't better, but are still good. Jaws 2 is de facto the second best Jaws movie. But even if you take it out of, well, Jaws 3 and 4 are horrible.
Yeah.
And you couldn't possibly make a worse Jaws movie than Jaws 4. Jaws 2 is a really solid movie. It's not nearly as good as the first one, but it doesn't try to be. It ends up being its own thing. They can't recreate the horror of seeing the shark for the first time, so they show it a lot more. But they burn its face so it has a little bit more menace. Have you seen Jaws 2 in a while?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's fun, man.
You know what's a movie? I think you were just about to say this. A movie that's good but not as good as the original is The Lost World.
Yes, Park. That was my next one. Yeah, The Lost World is... People mock its ending, like its third act, so much where I'm just like, as a kid, I wanted to see the T-Rex on the mainland.
Yeah.
And I got it, and I was fine with it.
Yeah, I don't know why people say that's not a good movie.
Yeah. It's not as good.
It's not as good, no, but it's still a good movie. And, like, tell me about the terror of Don't Go Into the Long Grass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a scary scene.
And the scene where the Rexes are teased, where they're suddenly whole trees shaking.
Yeah.
Because you can't recreate the vibration in the ground, or in the glass in particular.
Yeah.
So they up the ante. And then the Rex attack on the RV thing was...
Yeah, that's all good stuff.
Was great. And poor Eddie Carr getting ripped in half.
That's traumatizing.
Yeah. Great movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that one. I don't get the hate it gets.
I don't. People just... Haters be hating, you know?
Yeah.
Haters be hating.
Haters be hating.
Is there a better metaphor for life than haters be hating?
Yes.
yes, there is.
They're like... Yeah, inherently sequels most of the time aren't as good, but I wouldn't even always categorize them as a cash grab. Like, in theory, yes, you're continuing on something that was successful, and with movies, of course, you want to tell a story, but a studio's end game is to make money.
Yes.
But you can do it well, as well. A superhero franchise, I wouldn't automatically say is going for a cash grab, because some are... Marvel's been doing it, where Honest Trailers a couple of years ago pointed out where they're like, it's almost Marvel's picking their projects on a dare, where they busted out Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. They busted out Ant-Man, which outside of comic book fans is like, what?
Yeah,
it's laughable.
It's laughable to think of Ant-Man, but he's a key Avenger that should have been there earlier. But
agreed.
That's another story. And
DC is doing Aquaman, which... That show, that friggin' Super Best Friends show, Super Friends, it made Aquaman a joke.
Yeah,
it reduced him to a joke. And Jeff Johns did a great run on the character, and thankfully this movie looks like it's heavily lifting from that great run. So as a fan, I'm excited, but you're not... Doing an Aquaman movie isn't an obvious cash grab. If it was just cash grabs, then they'd be like, no, we're not even going to try anything beyond Batman and Superman, which is all Warner Brothers had done for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, sequels can be good. They can also be bad. They can kill a franchise. Matrix just needed one story.
Yeah.
And then the sequels got progressively worse. And it's hard to think of The Matrix in a good way without being like, oh, those ruined it.
Yeah, they really tarnish things. Just like for a long time, the prequels, the Star Wars prequels tarnished Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Rocky, like... Actually, yeah, we were talking about Rocky earlier in this podcast. Like, that's an interesting franchise to look at.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, Rocky is... The first one was a great movie. And then the second one was a really solid sequel. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only way they could have gone. Rocky 3 is a fun watch. People have a lot of great memories of Rocky 4, but anytime I watch it, I'm like, it's my second least favorite.
Even with Ivan Drago?
I like Drago, but when you boil it down to Rocky ends the Cold War,
That's the best. Single-handedly.
It's kind of weird. And then Rocky 5 is just the worst.
Yeah, I haven't seen 5, but I hear it's terrible.
It's so weird because they were like, we want to go to a back to basics, so he loses his house, he loses his fortune.
He's brain damaged.
He's brain damaged, so he can't box anymore.
Yeah.
And then the whole movie is like he's back in his little piddly apartment.
Yeah.
From the first one, and his life's falling apart, and his relationship with his son is awful because he mistreats his son, or his son feels like he's mistreating him.
Yeah.
Because he's focusing on training this young upstart boxer, and Tommy Gunn, and then it ends in a street fight, which could be interesting, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And Rocky 5 is just not good.
Yeah, I want to see it just to see how bad it is. It's one of those movies. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like I've probably seen parts of it. Like, I've seen parts of all the movies, just I don't know which one I'm watching sometimes.
With certain ones of these franchises, that's understandable. Rambo, like First Blood, is very much its own movie, and it would be hard to confuse First Blood with Rambo 2 or Rambo 3, or especially John Rambo. But then Rambo 2 and 3 are so similar in over-the-top style and tone that they could be interchangeable because they shoot people with explosive tip bow and arrows.
Yeah.
Which is just wonderful.
I enjoyed Rambo, the last one.
I did as well, but it's just messed up. It gets crazy heavy.
Yeah, it does.
And I get that they were going for somewhat realism, but like limbs are flying by giant bullets. Throats are ripped out. That's stuff I did not need to see. It's just like, what? I was expecting explosive tip bow and arrows, or maybe the slightly more serious take that we got with First Blood, where I think in First Blood one person dies. A lot of people got horrifically injured. Yeah. But it was different. It was a good movie. Mm-hmm. With franchises, just to segue, that have had sequels, it's interesting. Let's look at Predator.
Yeah.
Like it just had a sequel that I think has gone out with a whimper. I don't know. I don't think it made much money. I haven't seen it. I haven't heard many good things.
I was going to see it, but I heard it was terrible. So stay away.
There's that's a franchise that I feel like should work, but they haven't cracked it yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it that difficult? I guess it is to make a good Predator movie.
Like now, part of it might be the first one was borderline perfect. I watched it recently, and Honest Trailers did a great Honest Trailer for it in the lead up to
they made a great suggestion
where it was like it could get re-released, and outside of one line
some homophobic dialogue.
Yep, outside of some homophobic dialogue from Jesse Ventura, like that one line, if you just cut that from the movie, and you could probably re-release it today with there being no problems. Although Shane's black character would probably not fly.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. He was my least favorite in the movie anyway, so...
You have to rewrite some jokes.
Yeah. But the rest of the movie, it's great. It's a great film. It holds up to this day.
Oh, yeah, it holds up totally.
And it's one of the best Arnie movies, outside of, like, T2 or...
Commando.
Commando's great, but Commando's interesting.
Commando's great if you just, like, don't expect to be serious about anything.
And it flirts the line with, like, at times I can't tell, are you going for parody? Are you going for serious? And missing the mark so much? Like, it's
you just have to enjoy it. You can't think about it.
Yeah, and an amazing pure steel drum soundtrack the entire movie.
Yeah, it's
so out of place.
No, because they're in a Caribbean island. Valverde's. It doesn't exist. Fictional. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm wondering if with the first Predator movie, and they keep going back to the well with it, like, Predator 2 is... I enjoy it. It's not nearly as good as the first one, but that's another one where I'd be like, it's all right.
Yeah.
Predators, the one that came out in 2010, I still really dig, and it was the one that, even though it was still a bunch of the same, it tried to do some different stuff with it.
Yeah. I remember, I don't think I liked that movie. I remember there were some things I found interesting, but I only saw it the one time back when it came out, so I don't remember much of it. But I like that there was a reference that to the original in the movie.
Yeah.
Which was good.
I remember back when we were in our watered-down apartment, one night Jill's like, let's watch a movie. I was like, sure, what one? She's like, I don't know, pick a blockbuster, one we haven't watched in a while.
Yeah.
I threw on Predators.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, what kind of blockbuster is this? I was like, well, it came out during blockbuster season. It works.
It works, sure.
It's like, no, it wasn't the movie she was expecting, and it was super tense at points and messed up.
Yeah.
But I like, that's one I enjoy. I'm wondering why, like, what's the formula they need to crack? Because it seems like, okay, well, we couldn't crack it, so let's just keep going back to the well of recreating the first movie. But that's boring. It's been done, and it hasn't been done better than the first movie.
Yeah, no, I don't know where they could go with it.
Which, why I'd be interested if they could. Alien is a franchise that I think is in similar territory, where they're trying to crack the formula for a good sequel or prequel, where that's one we could talk about in the reboot thing as well, or prequel stuff. Like Prometheus originally was just going to be a straight up prequel where it was going to be on LV whatever, but the planet of the first one, and then jump off from there. But it's like, that's your point of how we got to the first planet.
Yeah.
Except then they decided to go, it's in the same universe, but it's not the same stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of frustrating, because now if you want the prequel, you have to tell a story of how very similar stuff happened just later.
Yeah.
Alien Covenant, I know not a lot of people enjoyed it. I really liked it.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, to me it was excellent.
Yeah, there were some things in there. I was like,
and
this is very interesting.
It was the first one that recaptured some of the very awkward, deliberately awkward sexual stuff from the Alien, like, that had been in the first one. Because the first one, that, like, there was a lot of metaphor about rape, male rape, all that stuff. Especially the original art for the xenomorph was very phallic. It was so awkward. So this one was the first one that really brought that back, especially with the scene with David and the later version of David, but wasn't Walter. Which, again, last podcast we talked about how great Michael Fassbender was. He was phenomenal in this movie, in both roles. And I was so sad when you found out, like, Walter was gone, because I loved Walter. And Covenant was, I enjoyed it a lot, and now they might not actually finish it, and if they do, it's going to be weird, because now it's very much David's story. So they're in this place where it's like, how are you going to set up the originals? Because if you're going to be able to actually make another one, because Covenant didn't make the money they wanted it to, and now Disney's buying Fox and all its movies, so Alien. If we ever get it, it's going to be like that prequel. So how are you going to get the stuff in the starting positions? But the one I think that you could do well, but they haven't yet, and they failed at it twice, is an Alien Predator movie.
Yeah.
Where there's been some very interesting and great Alien Predator comics. There's been some good games. There's some story there. I'd love to see them actually get it done well. Because there's potential for a great movie in there.
Cool, yeah.
But we've had two very bad ones.
And bring Batman into the mix. You ever seen those ones?
Predator
versus Batman.
Yeah, Alien versus Predator versus Batman. There was I think it's Bat in the Sun is a YouTube channel that does fan films with Batman stuff and it might predate Bat in the Sun, but if you look it up, there's a thing where Batman fights Predator, or no, Batman fights the alien, and then Predator shows up at the end.
That's what's that short film called? You remember that one?
Dead End, I think.
Dead End.
Yeah. And the guy playing Batman did well.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Overall, very good short film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what sequels are absolutely terrible?
Before we get that, I thought of two good comedy sequels.
Okay.
And I think comedy sequels especially are a hard nut to crack.
They are.
More than any other sequel, because Comedy, it's a tough movie. Not as many of them are rewatchable because it's like
You know the jokes.
The big laughs aren't there. Like there are some comedies I can rewatch over and over.
Yeah.
But most of them I can't.
Yeah.
So because you know the jokes, you know all this, and then it's like let's try to take something that was funny, and tastes and humors change, they evolve, whatever. Yeah. So it's a tough nut to crack. But two in particular are Hot Shots Part 2.
Yeah.
Is hilarious, and in my opinion, the better Hot Shots movie. Mm-hmm. And then, even though it's not better than the first one, Airplane 2 is still hilarious.
Airplane 2, the sequel.
Airplane 2, the sequel, even though it knows what it is and it makes fun of itself for it, but it is still really, really funny.
Yeah, well, that's from the Zucker brothers.
Yeah.
And there are other great sequels, Naked Gun 2.5.
Yeah.
The Naked Gun movies, except for the third one. I'm not crazy about the third one. The first two are so funny and so rewatchably funny.
That golden era of parody.
They're so. I still laugh just thinking about them, thinking about the jokes. I know them, but they're hilarious. Sometimes I just find myself quoting Naked Gun quotes. And just having a good laugh all by myself.
Little out of the way place where we can get some great Viking food. Cracks me up every time. It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, so sequels that were
absolutely
bad.
terrible.
Absolutely terrible.
The first one that comes to mind is Dumb and Dumber 2. That was so bad.
I didn't watch it.
It was so bad. Like, it was just mean-spirited comedy. It wasn't them being dumb. It was them being mean. Well, especially Jim Carrey, Lloyd being so mean. It wasn't funny.
Terminator 3, Terminator 4, Terminator Genesis.
Yeah.
Matrix 2, Matrix 3.
Yeah.
Rocky 5. Alien Resurrection is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Both Alien versus Predators.
I like the second one.
It's better
because I can just turn off my mind. If I don't think about how bad it is, it's enjoyable.
There's some good stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff that I find even harder to watch now than I did when it first came out.
Yeah.
So I never advise anybody to watch that movie. It's also shot terribly darkly.
It's a very dark movie.
Yeah. Thematically and actually lit. Jaws 3 is bad, and then Jaws 4 is even worse. And listener, if you haven't watched it, I kind of want you to, just so you can understand how bad this movie is. Or look up. Comedians have stand-up routines mocking this movie. You know it's bad when you can make a comedy routine out of the entire movie. Before Honest Trailers did, and I'd love to see them tackle it. Because there's a roaring shark.
Speaking of roaring, there's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which isn't a bad movie,
but it's really stupid.
I've come to realize how stupid it is.
Yeah, like I've said numerous times, it's one I'm not going to buy. And originally it was because it just bummed me out. But then over the past while, and especially after Honest Trailers did their Honest Trailer, it is really dumb.
It's a really dumb movie.
Where the biggest dumb thing, aside from we've created a human clone, which is just so many questions. And why would Hammond have beef with that when he's bringing back extinct species? And
it's different.
Sure, we'll go with that. It's still playing God.
Yeah, sure.
Where we've created a specifically engineered this dinosaur to kill people. And how do we get it at you? By pointing a gun at you.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to point a gun at you. So we should be able to shoot you. But no, it's a light, so we can, in essence, shoot a dinosaur at you.
Then there's the dime store dinosaur auction.
Yeah.
A recreated dinosaur is selling for like $10,000.
And
you can buy a car, or you can buy a dinosaur less than you can buy a car.
Yeah. And then also, at the beginning, it's really dumb. The whole thing where they get to the island to get the Indominus DNA, where you're in this water, where this giant Mosasaurus, they're like, no, it hasn't eaten for 3 years. It's probably dead. It would be dead. It would be dead. Like, there was nothing to hint at how the thing had been kept eating. Like, did the dinosaurs just go to that one open spot on the fence to eat, and it just kept jumping out?
Yeah.
And then they're in a sub that would most likely have some kind of sonar that the Mosasaurus would set off because of its size. Yes. And it wouldn't just sit in one position. That sucker would be moving. It's really dumb.
Yeah. And then, like I've mentioned, little Johnny's going out to walk the dog, and there's a dinosaur that eats him.
Yep.
Like, there are dinosaurs free. That's kind of cool. But there's like 10 of them. Just round them up or shoot them.
Hopefully round them up, because we want them alive.
We want another movie.
Yeah.
And they're treating it like, oh yeah, just let them be with nature. But no, you got a raptor running around suburbia.
Yeah.
Eating people.
You've got a T-Rex.
You got a T-Rex just walking around and just strolling into the zoo.
You have a Mosasaurus swimming the open oceans.
Yeah, there's a problem.
That one, out of any of the others, would cause the most problems, because that's going to impact food chains, which have a larger impact.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, it's like, okay, it's a lone raptor that's not going to give birth to other raptors, a T-Rex, and then like 5 pterodactyls. Yeah. I get that there's other animals out and about, but still.
All right, there is.
What's like the Apatosaurus going to do that's going to be detrimental?
Yeah, you can just let them hang out.
Yeah.
They're just going to eat some trees.
Yeah.
Well, not the trees, the leaves.
Yeah, that's a bad one. Jurassic Park 3
that was
is awful. A raptor saying Alan should always be made fun of.
They work that into every honest trailer, and it's always hilarious.
Oh man, and I really want Sam Neill back in this franchise, because he deserves a better send off.
Yeah,
and I want Jeff Goldblum back, because he deserves a better send off.
Well, the little bit that Malcolm was in Fallen Kingdom, he was a well written Malcolm. They nailed Malcolm.
Yeah. Let's see other ones, and there's so many.
There's so many.
Superman 3, and then especially Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Yeah, those were bad.
Batman Forever is, people will say like, oh, it's all right.
It is.
I don't think so. Last time I watched it, or the last 2 times, I'm just like, this is really bad.
It says something that you watched it 2 times.
Yeah, I know, but it's one I'll throw on even though I know it's bad. Yeah. And then Batman and Robin it's Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin.
There's enough said. Let's see.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Men in Black 2 was terrible.
Yeah, Men in Black 3 was better.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Men in Black 2 was awful though.
That was a bad movie.
The best thing about that was the Will Smith song.
I don't remember that.
Oh, it's a great song.
Yeah, Men in Black 2. I remember coming home from the theater and just being like so disgusted. That movie was so bad.
It was. It has its fans, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
You know what? Even though I've defended it, Amazing Spider-Man 2 goes on this list.
I still haven't seen that. It's on my to watch Netflix list, but I still haven't watched it.
So I'd put on Spider-Man 3 is terrible, but I'd put all 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies on here. Come at me.
Yeah, I'll back you up. They're not good movies.
No, thank you. And we talked about it last time, X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men Origins Wolverine. They're on here. But with Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, for me, what keeps me defending it is a couple things. Mostly the awesome chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. Yeah. Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy. I'm a Gwen Stacy fan, so I always love seeing her in movies or her getting represented in the games and in the shows, because it's always Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Because when you include Gwen Stacy, it's like, okay, you know what's coming. Know what's coming. So they just don't. And then they give her stories to Mary Jane, and it frustrates me. And because Spider-Man saves her. And then the thing they had to nail for me was Gwen's death. And even though they changed it up a bit, they still nailed its essence, its impact, its spirit. So that's what saves that movie for me. But it has all the problems of Spider-Man 3, one movie earlier.
Right.
And we just had in my opinion, a really good Spider-Man movie in The Amazing Spider-Man. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
And somehow we ran into problems. The same problems one movie later. Because let's create a universe out of a single character pool. But instead of flushing it out over several movies, let's rush it all in one.
Yeah. Rush-packed movies are no good.
Yeah.
Like X3 and Spider-Man 3 and probably another 3 that I can't think of right now.
Yeah.
It's always the third.
Well, we're talking Shrek 5, the motion Final Frontier is just the worst. It's awful.
Yeah.
Nemesis is really Nemesis is really bad. I know Jill disagrees. She actually really likes that one. And I've grown to hate it less the more I've seen it, but it's still bad. And Tom Hardy was really good in that, except it's so weird. If you look up look up the screen test, because there's a scene of Hardy doing a screen test with Patrick Stewart. Sir Patty Stew. And his performance in that screen test is so much better than in the movie, and you're just wondering, why did the director change it? It's really weird. Reboots. Let's segue into those.
Reboot.
Do you think they have a good place? Is it something that is becoming more of a well that people are they're just willing to get to too fast?
I mean, jumping the gun and rebooting too early? Is that what you mean?
I guess, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Spider-Man was rebooted pretty quickly.
Yeah, there was a 4-year gap.
Yeah. Do they have a place? Yeah, I think it's all right to reboot movies. Remake is a different story. Because that's a whole other bag of fish?
Kettle of fish.
I always mess up that.
And kettle of fish is weird for me because I always picture a tea kettle. I'm like, you can't fit more than one fish in there.
That's just illogical.
and terrible.
It's mean to the fish.
And it would spoil your tea.
Exactly. So many problems with having a fish kettle.
Yes.
Yeah. Reboots are alright. They can take a killed franchise and bring new life into it, which is fine. Like it happened with Batman.
Yep, Batman Begins.
It's going to happen with Batman again.
Yep. And somewhat happened with Superman.
Yeah, they tried a couple times with Superman. Didn't go great.
Yeah, I still really enjoy Superman Returns, flaws and all.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have a problem with reboots.
It's one of those where if you're going to do it, I'd say do it well. Hopefully that should be the goal. Where you had Batman Begins turned out great. It was necessary. It was wonderful. I know there was Amazing Spider-Man. Some people are like, you should have just done the fourth and that would have saved it. But everything I hear about Spider-Man 4, I'm like, no, it was still going to be probably to me not a good movie, and still just like we've got the two villains and it's still too much. So Amazing Spider-Man, I really enjoyed because I was done with the high school thing, but it was back in high school, and it rehashed some territory, but it was more of a focused movie, and I liked some of the stuff they did in a lot, and it gives you a chance to revive a dead franchise or say something new with those characters or update them. When Fantastic Four gets added to the MCU, it's going to be they're in dire need of a reboot.
Oh yeah, they just can't make a good Fantastic Four movie.
No, we have it like there was the little ones where it was so whoever could keep the rights that were awful. And then there was the live-action ones with Chris Evans and the awesome dude from Titanic.
Jon Gruffeld, I think is his name.
Is anyone alive out there? Ah, Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic, you're breaking my heart.
Those first two were not good. And then, did you see Fan Four Stick?
No, it never did.
It is awful. Like, I watch it and I so badly hope that at some point there can be a documentary, like a thorough documentary released about the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Because that is more interesting than the actual movie. Just with the director apparently, like, at points when he wasn't getting his way, just snapped and started self-sabotaging and apparently being like, I want you to blink in this, like, now. And or the studio being so insanely interfering and...
Yeah, studio interference. I hear that, well, I know it's bad. I've heard nothing but it's bad. But, like, there's problems with, like, wigs.
Yeah. There's noticeable
reshoots.
when the actress playing Sue is rocking a wig. Michael B. Jordan did good in it, and I had no problem with him being the sister. It's like, all right, adopted. That's fine.
That's fine.
That works.
I like him. I like Michael B. Jordan a lot.
Yeah, he's really solid. Who would you say is in need of a reboot if there was going to be one?
Reboot. Well, they did the sequel, like I told you earlier. I just don't know what it's called. What is in need of other than Fantastic Four and Superman and Batman and I was gonna say Daredevil, but he's got the TV series.
And it's
good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really ask for reboots. I just accept them.
There's some stuff where it's like, if you're going to, in some ways, if you're going to continue it and kind of want a reboot. So an example would be like Amazon's Lord of the Rings show.
Yeah.
I would much rather that it be a reboot in some ways, so because the films were perfect.
Yes.
Like, even though they're very different from the books, they had to be.
They had to be, because those books are dry. They are dry.
But
as
then
the sand.
The Hobbit showed, because of how they did it, where trying to shoehorn in all this familiar stuff from the films bogged down an already expanded, stretched film. So with the show, I'd rather, in some ways, take a reboot approach where just make it its own thing. Make it more like the book, embrace more of the Tolkien lore. It's probably not going to, but I did a list a while ago on the website where I'd love almost an anthology bit where the first season is like the first age and then the second age, and then if you're going to end it anywhere and you wanted it to look like the movies, get to the point in the third age before The Hobbit where it's like the world grows into it. But I'd almost rather the show be its own thing. Like, yes, you can wink, wink, nudge, nudge by having cameos from characters, or sure, cast Ian McKellen as Gandalf if he's going to be in it, but have it be its own separate thing instead of too much like the movies. That's one. And Jurassic Park, even though there's going to be a sixth one, I'd almost rather a reboot, not a remake, because the first film is fantastic. But reboot it and make it like the book. Yeah. Like the R-rated book.
That's not going to happen, though, because they need to sell tickets to children.
Yeah. It's not, but it like, if they did it like the book, that could be a great film.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then there's some stuff I never want them to reboot. Just leave it alone. Like The Matrix, at points I've heard rumors of rebooting The Matrix, where it's like, don't do it. Just somehow erase the second two and just leave it as the first and restore its legacy.
Yeah, just erase the second and third ones,
Just be like, they didn't happen. We're sorry.
They were deleted.
They were deleted.
They're digital, like The Matrix.
Yes. Before we wrap up, you touched on remakes. And that would be interesting. What are there any things you'd like to see remade? What are
Matrix sequels? Just try again. Just forget they happen and try again.
And why do you put remake in a different category, or its own kettle of fish?
Remakes have a certain. Well, they're kind of like another shade of gray, where between reboots and remakes, they're kind of the same idea, but they're different. Reboots are kind of like, we already had one. I mean, remakes are like, we already had one, we liked it. Why do you need to try again? It's clear that you're just trying to make money.
Like there's lists that people put together of movies that can never be remade, like The Godfather. If they were to remake The Godfather, it's not because it needed to be remade. It's because they want to make money.
Right.
And it seems very hollow and transparent. Remakes have that tag of unnecessary on them, where reboots have a little bit more legitimacy to them. Like, okay, reboots is something that was already dead, where remake is resurrecting
Right.
something that died peacefully.
Potentially.
Or not even died, but you know what I mean? Like something that is at rest and is at peace. Yeah.
Huh.
That's my spiel.
Fair enough.
Yes.
What aside from the Matrix sequels, what would you say like that should be remade, or are there any films where you're like, would you be curious about a remake because it's fun to talk about, i.e. Jaws, but you wouldn't actually want it remade?
I think that a Crow remake would be good. They've floated that around for years now. When I watch The Crow, I think of how good it could be with modern technology.
Yeah.
To do the story right, to do the visuals properly. Because there's a lot of like... It just needed a couple of years. And Brandon Lee to be around.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I watched The Crow, I'm like, Brandon Lee, he was going to be a superstar. He was so good in that movie.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while since I've watched The Crow because I don't find it that good. There's some really good parts.
Yeah,
there's some really good parts, but a lot of it is...
Thematically, it's really good.
Yeah, thematically, but watching the film...
Yeah, there's some really bad stuff in it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie about that. What else should be remade? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough.
Ghostbusters. But not as all women. If they're going to redo Ghostbusters, just like... No, I don't even want a remake of Ghostbusters. I want a sequel. I want a proper sequel. I want Ghostbusters 3.
And if you're gonna, or I think there's a way where you can do it with all women, but if it don't make that like the one and only selling feature.
Yeah, don't make it about now they're women.
Yeah, that's where I know some disagree, but I found Ocean's 8. I enjoyed it. Yeah. I found it to be a fun movie.
Yeah.
And what I liked with the movie was I didn't see as much of it as like, oh, it's the women's ocean movie.
That's what it seemed like to me, and that's why I didn't see it.
Okay.
I love a good heist movie.
To me,
it just seemed like, oh, they're women. You got to see it because they're women.
Which I didn't find as much. I saw it was like, yes, it's an all-female cast, but I saw it more selling itself as it's a heist movie that just happens to be an all-female cast this time around, which I was fine with because I'm like, I got 3. There's a sequel that's bad. Ocean's 12. Ocean's 12 is terrible.
That was not a good movie.
No.
I enjoyed 13.
13 was really good.
Yeah.
It wasn't Ocean's 11, but it was still really good.
Yeah, 12 was really bad.
Yeah, 12 I can't watch. Jill and I really like the Ocean's movies. I showed her Ocean's 11 and she was like, that's really good. Can we watch the other ones? I was like, sure, just a heads up. Ocean's 12 is awful. And then she had said something like, at times I make certain movies sound worse than they actually are.
Yeah. This one was really bad.
We have differences of opinion. And then at the end of it, she's like, wow, that was really bad. I was like, told you. And then we watched Ocean's 13 and she really liked that and I liked that one. 8 I dug a lot. I wouldn't mind if the franchise kept going, and having an all-female cast isn't a bad thing. Women are 50% of the population.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with women.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, it was more so just if that's the only selling feature where if it's not a good movie and the only feature is like it's about the movie will suffer. I didn't find this one did. The whole cast did great.
Well, then maybe I'll check it out.
And it's the first time I actually enjoyed Sandra Bullock.
I don't believe it.
I actually enjoyed her.
I don't believe it.
Mike and I
Stop lying to me.
Mike and I both are some of the few who, for the most part, don't enjoy Sandra's body of work. But this one, she turned it around for me. I enjoyed her performance a lot. Sorry, back to the remakes. The fun one for me is always people do like fantasy football and all that. I'll do like fantasy film remake, and just in conversation, for me the fun one is Jaws and Jaws 2 and 12 Angry Men. Where especially 12 Angry Men, I don't want a remake for because it's a fantastic film, but and Jaws is a perfect film, so I don't want it remade because I don't think there's anything new to gain from a remake. But what's fun to talk about with it is who would you cast, because Jaws is a heavy acting movie. It is like
it's not about the shark.
No, the second hour is 3 dudes on a boat. Yeah. So it's fun to think of who now could be in that role, who could channel those characters, put their own spin on it. And then Jaws 2 is fun because so much of the cast is people from the first movie with slightly larger roles, but then it's mostly teenagers. So it's like, oh great, that could be the one where it's like everybody's in this movie. So you could throw in Emma Stone, you could throw in all these people, you could do all of that, and that one would be fun. Actual remakes I want, I'd love, just remake The Hobbit, do it well, do it in one, if not two. I'd love the Star Wars prequels remade.
Yeah, just try again.
Because where I get where you're coming from, where with remakes they can just be a straight up cash grab.
Yeah.
But I think at certain times with original movies, if you reboot it and you just tell the same story, then the problem is you're just doing the exact same thing.
Yeah,
whereas if you say it's a remake and I feel like this story's been told, but I didn't feel it was told well enough, or I see ways where we could tell this story better.
Yeah.
If that's the motivation behind it, I'm behind a remake.
Yeah.
Instead of just a straight up reboot, because a reboot would start a franchise.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of a single like standalone movie that we're like, oh, we're rebooting it. Nobody's like, we're rebooting Galaxy Quest. Because
we can get a cinematic universe
out of Galaxy Quest,
what?
Which no hate on Galaxy Quest. I love that movie. It's great.
Yeah.
But you don't. That would be a remake, and not a reboot.
Yeah, that'd be, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's all these reboots that they've tried recently to try to make cinematic universes.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Yeah, and cinematic universes. That's another topic for another time.
Yeah,
we should have included this one, but next time Mike comes back, we will talk about cinematic universes and the pros and cons of them.
Aha.
All right, dear listener, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and let us know in the comments, what are some of your favorite sequels? What are some of your favorite reboots? What would you like to see remade? And do you think that there is too much of that going on, and there needs to be standalone movies again, or can there be a healthy mix of both standalone and the endless sequels and franchises? Yeah, there's a platform. You can get film in so many different ways now. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon.
I think you said Hulu twice.
I did, because it's fun to say. Like you can get it on Prime, the Disney streaming channel, DC's service coming up. It's an interesting time to be a film fan and a show fan. There's so many avenues now. Anyways,
or you can just watch movies on TV. You know?
Watch movies on TV. Go see them in theaters because they need to make money so they can keep making them.
That's right.
Yep.
Go see a movie in a theater. It's the ultimate way to see a movie.
It's true. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Hope you all enjoy. We're going to go play Spider-Man for PS4. It's an awesome game. Have a great day, listener. God bless. Take care.